Celine Byrne,
Hi.
thanks for joining me here at the Kevin Barry Room ahead of your Friends of the National Concert Hall recital. How have you been during the pandemic?
Oh God, what a question to start with. It's been crazy. I think it's a crazy time for everybody, but for me it's been very, very strange. It's been kind of like my parallel to my life, which are highs and lows. The pandemic has been like that as well. But in saying that, I think I've handled it very well.
Let's maybe start with potentially one of the lows where it's only now a few weeks since we laid the great Ronnie Dunn to rest.
Yeah.
Tell us, what did she mean to you, and how important was it to you for you to sing both at her funeral and also at the graveside?
She was amazing in my life. She gave me a lot of confidence. When I was in college, I did my degree in the DIT. I think, you know, I always wanted to sing, but I didn't know to what level I would make it or whatever. And the DIT, when I went there, I said, okay, I was fixed that I wanted to be a music teacher. And performance was the degree I was doing and voice was my instrument. And I think it wasn't until I met Ronnie that she made me realize that I had potential, and she gave me a lot of confidence that I didn't have. I mean, I've always had this bravado, always, even in school, and that's a self-defense mechanism, and that's always been there for reasons we won't discuss today. They're not my sins to tell, but I've also had that sense of bravado, which people kind of said, because I've often said she gave me confidence, and people are like, but you always came across as confident. No, I always had a bravado, but I never had confidence. I was very, very insecure, and Ronnie really helped me grow as an artist, as a person, and she was kind, she was wonderful, she was loving, and I miss her. But in saying that, it was wonderful that I had a week in her house to help organise the funeral, and I wrote out the prayers of the faithful and decided we should do this cortege to the music, to the Academy of Music and also to the NCH, so that was wonderful. And it meant a lot to be part of that. And then, of course, as well, to be part of music ministry was wonderful, and it's always a blessing in any situation. But yeah, I'll miss her, and I have a lovely picture of her now on in my entrance hall, along with the other people that I've lost during the pandemic.
It's been such a difficult time, the whole pandemic, but I mean, there are small mercies. Probably one of the small mercies was the fact that you would normally be travelling so much, and there was always going to be a chance that, you know, when Ronnie, you know, eventually did pass on, that you potentially wouldn't be in the country, or you'd have to get back for a funeral. But it must have been such, in many ways, a blessing that you were here in the country.
Yeah, I felt
because
that,
of the pandemic, and you could be part of a ceremony. And I know a lot of people, including myself, who I stood outside the National Concert Hall here, really appreciated that gesture when the cortege came up and stopped outside, and we just had our little moment when we sang Amazing Grace and Mick O'Brien played Uilleann Pipes. You know, there was a beautiful, beautiful moment, you know. So there have been upsides, haven't there been?
Yeah, she would have loved that as well. Yeah, and also in relation to, like, everybody knows, I'm talking to the Friends of the Concert Hall here, and I'm sure they've heard in many interviews that I've done that I lost my mother-in-law, I lost my father, I lost my aunt, I lost my good friend, then I lost Ronnie, and today, as we're doing this interview this morning, I buried a friend of mine also. And as you say, there are small mercies, and well, thank God I have my faith, but also as well with regard to my dad, the fact that, I mean, I would have left, no matter where I was, I would have left to be at home, with my dad. But the fact that the pandemic hit in February, and he was diagnosed with cancer August before, but he was diagnosed with terminal cancer on April 15th, which is just gone, his birthday, and on his birthday he was diagnosed with terminal cancer. But what was what was good about the fact that I was at home at the time, so I was with him when he got the news, and I brought him home from hospital, and I was with him the whole time. And in actual fact, my dad passed away with me holding his hand. And it was a lovely thing, and I'm glad that I was there for that. I would have dropped anything to be at home anyway, but one never knows when someone will pass. I don't want to be morbid or, you know, make people feel bad at home, because I want to say to you, who, to the viewers at home, that I had a great relationship with my dad. I had a great relationship with Ronnie. I had great relationships. I work hard at my relationships, and when my dad passed, of course I was sad, but it was a lovely time, if I can say that.
Yeah. No,
So.
it makes sense.
Yeah.
What, through the pandemic, I mean, aside from some of the dreadful things, the very difficult things that you went through the pandemic, what kept you motivated? Because I think this is the one thing that initially when the pandemic struck, musicians, we were all robbed of, you know, what we crave, which is the stage and an audience. Sad as that may seem, it's
No,
true.
it's not sad. It's our way. It's our livelihood. It's what we know.
So, like, a lot of musicians went online initially, and then that kind of dropped off as the months went by. We realised this is actually going to go on for quite a while. What kept you motivated over the past, 14 months now?
Well, I realised that big goals are not achievable in a pandemic. Big goals. I said, okay, you know what? I bought the score of Simon Boccanegra, and I said, I'm going to learn this because this role, I love it. I'm going to learn it. And I opened it and went. I started. I got the highlighter out. Woo! Highlighted my part, and then I kind of went and said, okay, great. I'll start on that. I opened it. No motivation. So I realised that I had to create small goals for myself, and those goals were achievable. So at the moment, I've signed up for with the Goethe Institute to learn to get better at my German and get better at my English as well, the way I put that sentence together. But that's 3 hours on a Wednesday and 3 hours on a Friday, and I love it. And before that, I had done an Italian course. And the online things I had done, I did a concert on Stageit.com, which was a platform, but it's not as good as Dice FM, which is the platform I'm going to be using for my concert on the 29th. And on that platform, I did a concert from home, which was wonderful. And I enjoyed it because it gave me something to do. But yeah, once I had done that, I kind of went, okay, I ticked the box. And then I was looking at other things. And, you know, before I got into this world of opera, you know, I wasn't a 14-year-old going around my house going, one day I'm going to be an opera singer. I was never like that. I always wanted to do West End, and I always enjoyed singing. And so during the pandemic, I recorded a few songs, and there's one or two that I put up on Facebook. I did with Jim Sheridan, I did You'll Never Walk Alone, and I was dedicated to everybody who had lost somebody, because I just wanted them to know that I had lost people too, and I knew exactly how they were feeling. It's one thing to offer sympathy, but also to offer empathy, to actually feel what they're going through. And then I did an Elvis song, Can't Help Falling in Love with You, that I did with Mark Cahill, and I put that up on Facebook as well, because I wanted to see people to see another side of me as well, that's not just opera. You know, I am an artist, I'm a singer, and, you know, my father would say, Lord have mercy on me, you're a jack of all trades, and you could sell ice to the Eskimos. Yeah.
You grew up in Kildare in the 1980s.
I did.
So,
well, 1980s. I was born in 1980.
1980, yeah. So you grew up in the 80s and obviously into the 90s as well. So what was the musical life like of the young Celine Byrne? What was your first singing memory, your first memory of singing?
Trying to get out of the house because there was killings going on, and going out into the swing, and instead of going la 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 la, just sat in the swing and sang away. That was it. It was an escapism, I think, music was. I never grew up in a musical background. My father was very proud of the fact that I was doing very well in school with sports, playing Gaelic and hurling, or camogie for the girls, and doing all that. And yeah, I was kind of a very rough and tumble girl. I still have that little quality that sneaks out every so often. But no, there was no real sense of a musical influence within my family. And I just like singing, and I suppose people recognise that. So my father had a huge family. There's 11 brothers and sisters, and my mother has a huge family. There's actually 13 brothers and sisters. Okay. So whenever there was get-togethers, they'd always say, Celine sings the song. And so from a very young age, I was always getting up in family environments and getting up and singing a song.
But they themselves didn't sing songs necessarily, your parents or the extended family?
And, you know, like there's no singing lessons when I was growing up, you know. There was only, like, you'd go for piano lessons with Peg down the road because she has a piano. Yeah. That was it. I didn't actually know, would you believe this, in all my naivety, country girl, I actually didn't know, and this is God's honest truth, swear to God on that line, God is my witness. I didn't know you could actually get singing lessons. I didn't know you could get your voice trained. I knew you could get piano lessons and violin lessons, but I thought that, you know, you could only do that if you had a bit of money.
When you started singing then, what did it do to you? What did it do for you? I'm really curious about how people make a connection with music at a young age. Yeah. And was there a spark? Was there a moment? Do you remember an early musical experience, either listening to a singer or you singing yourself, that really made you sit up and go, this is different to maths, geography, the other things I do, Gaelic, camogie, you know. Was there a moment, what was the spark that kind of made you sit up and go, singing is something
I think it was a feeling. It was the feeling that I got. Yeah. As I said, it was an escapism in one way. And in another way, it was an expressionism, because I could connect somehow emotionally to music and to singing. And I don't mean that in a conceitist way or anything. I just mean it in regard to the fact that, like, when I sang, if I was sad, I could never explain to somebody that I was sad. And I never understood what depression was, even though it was starting to come into my life and play a part in my life. And it was only through music and listening to lyrics that I felt, oh my God, that singer, those lyrics, that song. And yeah. I remember.
Go back there a bit now.
Yeah, go on.
That singer, those lyrics, that song.
Yeah.
So did you think music spoke to you in a way that other things maybe didn't?
It made me understand my feelings in a way.
Okay.
Because I thought, okay, that singer's feeling the same thing. When I listen to his lyrics, I can hear that he's saying what I'm feeling, but I can't verbalize it.
Would it be fair?
And I can't emote it because I don't know how to do that. And then the more I got involved with kind of singing and everything, I was able to use that to emote. Would
it be fair to say music in a strange way is kind of therapy?
Oh, for sure. Yeah. Absolutely. Gone out.
And do you think, this actually goes ahead, I was going to ask this question later on, but I'm going to ask it now since we're here.
Go for it.
Do you think that when you sing, that it's for you in the sense that it does you good, but in the sense that it does you good and you grow as a singer, that transmits to people who listen? Like, is there some, I feel there's a space between myself and a listener that is squeezed to nothing. We come close together when I perform, and that my feeling as I'm working as a musician, your feeling as a singer. Do you think that what it does for you also does something to somebody else who's listening, who's not necessarily feeling the same way?
I would hope so. Yeah. I would like to think so. And sometimes I do, get that feeling.
I can vouch it definitely happens, because I've conducted with your concerts, and I know people, how they feel after you sing. So that's a definite real thing. But I'm curious to know your sense of it.
That's actually really lovely.
I see people, because when you sing and at the end, when you bow, and I turn out and I bow, and I see people's faces in the audience, and they are visibly moved. You can see it. It's absolutely clear. It's the clearest thing in the world, clear as day. But what I'm curious to know is that, like, for you, it's a physiological thing. Yeah. You sing, and even your way of breathing oxygenates your blood, and it gives you a sense of feeling. Yeah. I'm curious to know, do you sense that? Does that transmit to an audience? Do they think? Do they physically change as well?
I hope so. I would like to think that I'm a good communicator, and it's important to me, because you can't. And I've seen some singers do it, and some musicians in general, where they are so involved in their art form and so engrossed in their instrument, they forget to communicate, and it doesn't come from them. I think that when I sing, I do express, and it does come out, because I feel it. So I couldn't sit in a room and talk to somebody and get all emotional and get upset and not get some feeling. It's the same way when I'm singing. And there's different ways of singing as well. When I'm in an opera, I'm totally engrossed in the character, and I totally get into that character 100%. I'm no longer Celine Byrne, not even Celine Byrne soprano. I'm that character, and I hope to God that I'm sending the message through my voice that they can understand how I'm feeling, and in a way I draw them in, hopefully. And it's different then with a concert, because with a concert I'm now not Celine Byrne, but I'm Celine Byrne soprano. And here I am, and it's my job to entertain. And then what I love as well is I like to chat in my concerts, and that's when the Celine Byrne comes out.
Okay, so hold on now, Dove. So I'm fascinated by this. Like, this is really interesting to me, because I'm fascinated by this, the space between the conscious and the subconscious.
Yeah.
I'm fascinated by the space in which you have to emote.
Yeah.
And you've got to project that emotion, but you can't project unless it comes from you.
Oh yeah, and I certainly do. I mean, I don't think anybody can come to a concert and not feel that I've given everything and projected everything within the music, but also from myself.
But most importantly, I'm interested in, because what you do has, I know what you do has high level technique, and there's lots of stamina involved in what you do.
Oh, yeah.
You do very difficult things, and there's high level technique to it, and that requires a level of control. But I also know there's another side to you that leads to lose control in order to be genuine and authentic and real, to enter a character, to emote properly. Can you tell me a little bit about the duality and interplay between controlling and not controlling, and doing both at the same time?
Well, that's like the duck in the water analogy.
Yeah.
I mean, you see the lovely duck floating on the water, and you don't see what they're doing underneath, and their legs are going frantic. You know, I am always aware of the fact that I have to engage in my technique and the physiology of the whole thing, but also as well not to emote too much that it comes out and somehow sacrifices the art. But I definitely know how to do it. I don't know how to explain it. Yeah. I know how to do it with, like, for instance, Madame Butterfly is one of the cruelest roles ever written.
Absolutely.
And Puccini, I don't know what he was thinking when he wrote Madame Butterfly. The music is absolutely fabulous, and the orchestration, and it's amazing. And
why is it cruel?
It's cruel because it's so difficult. And anybody would tell you that.
Is it difficult technically, musically, emotionally?
Technically, and for the stamina, with the fact that she's on stage the whole time, and like it's so difficult. So I'm always aware of, when I say, for instance, do Butterfly, that I really have to hold back and not give 100%, because if I give 100% from the start, I won't make it to the end. So I have to really know how to work it.
That's vocally.
That's vocally. Yeah, and energy and stamina. And then you've got other roles like Mimi, which I've just done with Irish National Opera, which I was very grateful for, and thank God that went ahead. And that for me is my role, my dream role. I love it. I just could wake up in the morning and just sing it all day, because I feel so comfortable. Yeah. And I don't have to worry about that technically, because I know I can get, because it lies really well between my tessitura. Which tessitura, for people at home who don't know what that is, it's just a range in which I feel comfortable singing. So it's really comfortable for me to sing in that role. But also as well, there I can give more emotionally.
Because you're free.
Because I know I can. So everything is relative to the role, to the project, to whatever I'm doing.
So this is like what maybe that people who, who are listening in now and going to listen to your upcoming Friends of the National Concert Hall recital. There are certain roles, like it's not just a case of you're booked to sing Mimi and you get a call to sing Madame Butterfly or various roles. There are roles that really suit you. It's like somebody putting on a jacket or a suit that really fits properly and they feel snug in that. Can you develop that a little bit more? What is it about? You talk about the tessitura, which is the range at which the notes are written, so sometimes it sits quite high, sometimes it sits a little bit low in your voice, sometimes it's right in the middle in the sweet spot. And that's unique in a weird way to you, because like all singers, your instrument is your body, and there's nothing you can do, but your body is your body, you know. So talk a little bit about what that means, like when you get to a role like Mimi, obviously, you know, that you are comfortable with.
I
What
think I
makes it
talk a lot
comfortable?
about Mimi and Butterfly and all that. I'm talking a lot about Puccini. And why am I talking a lot about Puccini? Because it's his style of writing. It's the verismo fach, so which she would say, that suits me really well. It suits me as vocally, it suits my technique, but it also suits my personality.
Let's
it
explain.
suits my passion, me as a person.
Just let's help people. Talk to me, what's verismo? I know what it is, but...
So, right, well, for my concert actually on the 29th, I'm starting off with Mozart, which is not verismo. Mozart is in the classical period, and then you've got the Baroque period before that, likes of Handel, Purcell and all that. And then you've got the classical period, which was Mozart, and it's very clean. There's no, as we would say, sliding. There's no sliding in any singing anyway. But there's this, in Puccini with this verismo music, you have a lot of portamenti, where you're just going from one note to the next, where in Mozart you don't. It's very clean. There's 9/8 suspensions that have to be clean, and the music has to be really, really good. And when you sing forte, then you sing piano, and it's a different style of singing. And then the verismo comes after bel canto. But
didn't composers like Puccini, who were involved, who are known as verismo composers, didn't they want to create a more truthful, emotional connection with the singer?
It's more got to do with the emotion, the emotional side of it. And of course, the orchestration then is a bit bigger, because now we're in the Romantic period where there was more instruments available and the orchestra was growing in size. So with the growth in the size of the orchestra, you've also got the growth in the voice and what the voice can do. And Puccini was an expert writing. His orchestrations were amazing, and also the fact that he loved women, he loved a soprano voice, and I think he did 11, hopefully I'm not wrong. I think he wrote 11 roles for soprano, and I've sung 9 of them, so I just love Puccini.
Yeah.
But now I want to delve a little bit more into the world of Wagner and Verdi, which actually for many years, and don't condemn me for this, for many years when I started off my studies, now this is when I started off my studies, I thought, because of the orchestration and the huge sound, I actually thought that Wagner and Verdi came after Puccini, but didn't. So that was a big shock to me. I was like, oh really? I didn't know that. They came before Puccini. So that was very interesting for me then, because then I looked at Puccini in a different way, because I sat back and thought, you know, he was obviously influenced by the composers that went before him, or the composer of his time. So I sat back and listened more to Wagner, and then tried to kind of see how Puccini might grow from listening to that.
Talk to me a little bit about the difference between, apart from the obvious ones, the difference between a recital and performing in a fully staged opera. So let's look.
Totally different.
Of course, there are obvious ones, but like, I'm curious to know, even as a conductor, somebody who conducts opera, you know, do you study stagecraft? Like, do you kind of feel that acting? What's the role of acting when you're singing, and the interplay between two? What's the process like between working with a conductor and director who are both giving you direction at some stage? Because opera is such a multi-dimensional art form, and there is so much you've got to take on board as a singer, as an opera singer. I believe singing in opera, like I hold this to be a great truth in all music, is the most difficult thing in all music, no matter what you do. I think singing in opera is the most difficult thing, because I just think of a singer, first of all, everything's from memory. Yes. You've got costumes on, you've got wigs.
You don't just memorize your bits, you have to memorize every bit. And then you have to remember what the conductor wanted.
You've got wigs, you've got lights in your eyes, so you can't necessarily see the conductor all the time. You move across the stage, so the conductor's over here 1 minute, and then the next minute. You've got all the language issue, but you're not, because you're not singing in English, you're singing in Italian or German most of the time, maybe French sometimes. It's such a when I think about all the things that singers have to do, it kind of melts my head a little bit when I think about all the things.
It can be overwhelming for me as well as an artist.
So tell us a little bit about all the various things you have to do and all the multi-disciplinary skills you need to bring to the table. How do you learn all that stuff?
Okay. Well, you asked a lot of questions.
I want to try and give people a sense that this is so complex.
Yeah,
you know?
no, because there's a question about the recital, which I'll get to, but we'll go with the latter, which is the opera. It's a huge undertaking to do an opera, of course, because of all those elements. But in relation to that, I think it's, yes, you have to be able to act. But I've also seen singers who act and it's false.
Yes.
There's no connection to it. There has to be a reason for everything. Like, you know, even if words are repeated, why are they repeated? The conductor or the composer wanted that for a reason, to emphasize something, or, you know, there's a reason for everything. And there's an awful lot of subtext as well. I've seen singers who know the text and they know exactly what they're talking about because the action reflects what they're singing, but they don't understand the subtext. And then that's a pity. The biggest faux pas I think I've ever seen is a few bad Rosencavaliers where they just did not get this subtext. But yeah, I think for me, as I said, because I'm a singer who emotes a lot, I think the acting comes naturally. Because if I'm feeling a certain way and the music is suggesting that I feel a certain way, and then I get into that role and I start to immerse myself in that, I can't not come across. But I think that's because that's the way I am. I think that's because I have to express, because that's my way of letting go of all these kind of hidden emotions that I have. It's a way of my healing, to express and that's why I miss about the pandemic. It's been on the stage, it's been able to have that expression. It's a healing for me, but not only that, I miss the adrenaline rush. I miss being on stage and having that kind of wow factor and meeting people and meeting colleagues and traveling and doing all that. So I miss all of that. But going back to your question, yeah, I think acting is important in stagecraft, but no, it's not something that I learned. Although I did do a course in the Gaiety School of Acting, but that's because I wanted to excel in my art form and I wanted to do a course in acting. But with regard to the first question, which is the recital, there's many different ways to approach a recital and a programming for a recital. If I was in Wigmore Hall, of course, I would do a program of song. And I find that I've seen a lot of recitals lately, in the past year online, because I watch a lot of things online, because there's no point in saying, you know, I hear so many artists going, support the arts and, you know, watch this and watch this. And then you say to them, well, what did you watch lately? And they've watched nothing. So I practice what I preach, and I watch a lot of recitals. And I do find that some of them are wonderful, and then others I feel nothing afterwards because I feel they didn't communicate with me. I feel they've communicated the song and told me the story, but I haven't come away from them going, wow, that was wonderful, or that made me feel like this. It was just entertaining. And what I'm trying to do with my recital on the 29th of April is to choose repertoire that's not just song. And when I say song, I mean like lieder or French song, because of course aria means song as well. But I want to do a mixed program. So I'm starting off with Mozart because I think it's a wonderful discipline anyway for any singer to sing Mozart. But it's always nice to start a recital with something from the earlier genres. So I started with Mozart. And then I'm going to go into the world of lieder and do some Brahms. Now, I love Korngold, and I absolutely adore Strauss. But because I did a recital in Wexford where I sung some Strauss, I didn't want to repeat. I want to do something different. So that's the reason I chose Brahms. And then the girls, because I have a piano trio, Dervla Brosnan on piano, Alva McDonough on cello, and Nicole Hudson on violin. They will do the Brahms lullaby because I just think it's nice to hear, you know. And then I'm going to move into the world of, continue with song, but do Irish song. Because obviously I'm an Irish singer, I want to celebrate Irish music and sing some Irish song. Then I'm going to do why next. I'm going to do Neapolitan songs. Why? I don't know. Because in a way I thought, you know, people expect Celine Byrne to sing a few arias, and I'm known for my Puccini. So I want to finish with Puccini, which I do. And I want to bridge then between the Irish music and the operatic arias, and I don't want to kind of jump from one to the other. So I thought I'd just kind of ease it by doing a Neapolitan section beginning with the Torselli Serenata, because I think that's a nice way, because it is effectively a song, but it's in Neapolitan, and it I think bridges to the arias nicely. But that's just my way of doing program. I mean, everybody does a program in a different way, and if it was a different time and if it was a different place, yes, I'd probably do a different program. But also as well, because I haven't had the opportunity to work with an orchestra, that's why I'm singing the arias, because there's no other option. I mean, if I was singing with an orchestra next week, I wouldn't have any arias in this recital, because I'd be like, I'd save the arias for the orchestra, which they were purposely written for, and I wouldn't include them in a recital. So that's my reasoning for my programming.
The program looks completely fantastic.
Are you just saying that?
No, seriously, I was looking at it last night. It looked really great.
Well, I like programming as well. I program a lot of my
You put
concerts.
a lot of thought into your programs.
I do, and I did the recital in Wexford was like a lot of thought went into it, and it was huge. And I was afterwards going, why did I choose to do all that?
What's it like singing to an empty hall?
It's not great, I have to say. It's not great, but then, as I said, I emote, so I try to kind of visualize that I am speaking to somebody, you know, even here, talking to you. Like, I know I keep looking at the camera because I'm still aware of the fact that I'm talking to the people at home. Hello, friends at the concert hall. But it is daunting, I have to say. The first time I went out on stage with no audience, that was in Wexford last year, and it was totally daunting, and it's very nerve-wracking. When I did Bohème there as well, to a no audience, to having no audience there, I was very nervous. You see, the audience is special because it's just amazing. It's like getting a big hug. When I walk out on stage and I'm doing a concert and I sing, you know, you go out and you go, okay, Celine Byrne's fan, I'm going out to do her first song. Great. You do your first song. And then you see people, and then you feel them. And that's why I love talking to an audience, because in a way, you know, I immediately get a feeling of what the room is like, and I'm able to then talk, you know. And I talk, obviously, in different ways, you know. Like, if anybody comes to my Christmas gala every year in the board, gosh, they'll know that it's all about just having fun and just having a good night, you know. And I miss the audience, because I miss the crack, you know, not the drug. But I miss the fun that I have with the audience.
Yeah.
You know?
We all miss it.
Yeah.
We all miss it.
Yeah. I miss you guys.
We can't wait to get you back. Thinking now, as we're getting vaccines and we're slowly starting emerging, do you have any wishes and or desires for how your life will be or how the world will be after the pandemic?
I think.
Have you learned anything from the pandemic?
Have I?
Yeah.
Well, I said I've gone through a lot, so I've discovered, I won't say I've discovered a lot about myself, because I haven't. I think I've handled it very well. I think it's the fact that I've had depression, and I've learned how to deal with that. That when the pandemic came, I already had the skills. I already had the skills to deal with something like that. And I think also as well, in regard to death and the loss of my loved ones, I was able to deal with that as well, because I have the skills. I feel so sorry for actually people who are thrown into this pandemic and I don't know what to do. And yeah, that's...
But going beyond the pandemic, let's say we come out the far side of it.
So we come out the far side. As I said, I haven't really kind of learned anything. I've just kind of become more self-aware, which I am in any case. I think people will be kinder. I think there'll be less... People will be less in a rush. People will be less about, you know, the commodities and, you know, having the best car and the best clothes. Like I love fashion, I certainly do. And, you know, it was always nice for me to go and get, like, you know, oh, red is in, I need to buy something red. Blue is in, I need something blue, you know. It's, you know, I'm not like that anymore. I'm more kind of like, you know, I'm just happier in my own skin in a way. And I've lost a bit of weight, so I've kind of got more into kind of taking time for myself and doing all that. I just think people should be kinder, and I think people have learned that lesson.
And to finish up,
yes,
What are your ambitions? Because I mean, you speak a lot about you've sung 9 of the 11 soprano roles that Puccini wrote, you know, and you know, musicians always have because there's too much music for us to do in many ways. So much music, such a wealth of music. We're very lucky to have such a wealth of music written by such fantastic composers over centuries. What are your burning ambitions now as you look a little bit beyond the pandemic?
I want to record, and that's a burden financially. And also, you know, it's very difficult to get somebody on board for that project, and I can't hire an orchestra because, I mean, it's just too expensive. I would love to do an album entitled Puccini and Me, and put all Puccini songs on it, but also as well some influences of Puccini, you know. Put Leoncavallo, I'd like to include some of his, you know, he wrote Pagliacci. He also wrote a Bohème, but I'd like to put in some arias, you know, of his, and Ponchielli, you know, the dance, you know, Dance of the Hours.
I do it.
You know, I want to include that as well, because I want to have obviously an orchestral piece in there. And then after that, I would like to do another album, and I would like to do Mozart and Me, and continue in that vein and see where we go. That's what I'd love to do. That's my dream, but that has always been my dream, and hopefully that will come to reality. And other than that, because of the pandemic, there has been a lot of, at the start it was fine because it was like postponements. You know, everything was postponed or brought forward, but then as the pandemic progressed, you weren't able to postpone anymore, because where are you going to put these things that are being cancelled? So now they're just being cancelled. And I was supposed to do Turandot in Covent Garden last month. So going forward, I would love to be able to have the opportunity to be invited to come back to Covent Garden and also the big houses around the world, and so I can travel, so I can go on the stage, so I can do what I love because I miss it, and to just feel alive again.
Celine, Byrne, it's been such a pleasure to talk to you. Thanks for joining me here.
Thanks so
much. And the very best of luck with your upcoming France International Concert Hall recital. I'm looking forward to looking at it online.
Thank you.